First, we need to load the file n7stock2.csv in a suitable software package. The suitable software package here is a spreadsheet application. We will use Excel. To open the file, we simply double-click on the file name, and here it is in Excel. Now for question 2, we're going to have to use a second CSV file, so let's open that one as well, N7 code. The question asks us to find the unit cost column, that's column F, and to create a lookup function to show the unit cost. Obviously the unit cost depends on the code in column D, and we can use the other spreadsheet that we opened, N7 code, to find which code corresponds to what cost. So for a lookup function, we can use the formula builder, and we want to use VLOOKUP. The value we're looking up is the letter in column D, so click here, and we're looking for the corresponding number in the table in the other document. So switch to the other document, select the table, now the column index number, that is the column of the data we're wanting to return the value of, is the second column, so column number is 2, and we can press enter, and there's the formula. So code A corresponds to a unit cost of £2.79, and we can check that's correct in the other sheet. Looking at the formula in the formula bar, we can see it has a relative reference for D7, that's a relative reference for the code, which is correct because as we fill down we want to change that reference to look at other codes. But the reference to the table and the other file, that's this reference here, is an absolute reference. We have the dollar signs in it, and that's also correct because as we fill down we don't want these numbers to change. So to replicate the function, click in the bottom right hand corner of the cell where we see this cross icon, click and drag all the way down to the bottom. And that's successful. Now we can close Formula Builder. We want to enter some data into the model. So we just type in what is shown in the instructions. We want to name these 3 cells. To name a cell, click on it, click on Insert, Name, Define. We're defining this first one as rate A, and similarly rate B and rate C. These 3 cells need formatting, so select the 3 cells, format as a percentage with 0 decimal places. We can see they already have 0 decimal places. If we needed to change the decimal places, we could use these 2 buttons here. Next, we need a Countif function in cell H2 to count the number of cartridge entries in the type column. That's column A. So we want to count how many of these rows contain the word cartridge in the first column. So again, we can use the formula builder, use the Countif function, and the first term here, the range, where are we looking for things to count, we need to select the whole of the data in column A, and the criterion is we're looking for the word cartridge. Now we could type the word cartridge, but it would be better to have a reference to cell G2. So if we click on G2, it will be looking for cells in this range that are equal to cartridge, and it's going to count them if they are equal. Press enter, and we get the number 28. Now, this isn't perfect because when we fill down, we want to be counting different types of stuff. So we do want the reference to G2 to change. So G2 needs to be a relative reference, and that's okay. However, we always want to be looking in the same range here. When we fill down, we don't want A7 to change to A8, A9. So we need to make this an absolute reference. So we need to insert a $sign in front of the 7 and a $sign in front of the 80. Now if we do fill down, we can now check. We can see in the paper count G3 has changed because it's a relative reference, but A7, A80, they have not changed. They are absolute references. Next, in the cost column, that's in cell G7, we need a formula to multiply unit cost by sales. So we can type equals, click on the unit cost cell, click here, times, shift 8, sales, click on cell E7, that's the formula, press enter, and the cost has been calculated. Again, we need to fill down all the way to the bottom. Next, in the discount column, cell H7, we need an if function to calculate the discount given. In fact, this is going to be a nested if function because there are 4 possibilities. The possibilities are that the sales are greater than or equal to 30, or they could be less than 30 but greater than or equal to 20, or they could be less than 20 but greater than or equal to 10, or they could be less than 10. So we start typing the if function. We'll not use the formula builder here because we can't use that to do nested if statements. So equals if. The first thing we want is the test, and we'll do the test for our most difficult criterion. So if sales, click on E7, are greater than or equal to 30, comma, then we want to show the cell named rate C multiplied by cost. So we can click on the cell we called rate C, that's this cell here, B4, just click on it, and it gives us the name rate C in our formula, times cost. So we can click on the cell with the cost in it, that's G7. So if E7 is greater than or equal to 30, this is what we want to display. If not, then we want the alternatives. The alternative is followed by a comma. Now, the alternative still contains 3 possibilities, so we need another if statement inside here. So if, and the second test is going to be if the sales are greater than or equal to 20. And if that's true, then we want rate B times the cost. And if it's not true, we need another if statement. So if the next test is if sales are greater than or equal to 10, then we want rate A times cost. Otherwise, because there is still the possibility that sales are less than 10, we're not told what to do if the sales are less than 10, but we can assume that the discount is going to be 0. So we could type 0, or we could just leave the alternative blank. So let's end the first bracket and the second bracket and the third bracket. Press enter. And again, fill down to the bottom. And we can see that there are various discounts, and many discounts are 0 where the sales are less than 10. Next, we need a formula in the price column to subtract the discount from the cost. So this should be equals, the price is equal to cost minus discount. Enter. And again, fill down. Now, these 4 columns need to be formatted as currency in pounds with 2 decimal places. So select all of the data in these 4 columns, and if I right click, format cells, I can select currency, and the decimal places 2 is correct. Currency symbol, I need a pound sign. Here we are, pound English United Kingdom. Now you might be tempted to select Scottish Gaelic, but here's a warning: if you do that, the pound symbol goes after the number, which will be incorrect. So we do need pound English United Kingdom. Okay, and that looks as we expect it. Now the page orientation should be landscape, so click Layout, Orientation, Landscape. And we want to, well, first save the data model, so File, Save, then a new name. And we want to print a copy showing the formulae we've used. So to show the formulae instead of the values in the calculated cells, we can click on Formulas, Show Formulas. There they are. Now I'll have to resize some of these columns in order to get everything to fit on the paper. So the columns with the data in can be made smaller, and the columns with these long formulae in will need to be made wider, particularly the nested if statement. And I'll click on Layout again to make sure the sheet can be printed a single page wide. We can click on Fit to 1 page wide, and we can increase the number of pages tall until it's a sensible size. So 2 pages tall will be fine. So now we can File, Print. Before we print, we need to make sure our name, candidate number and centre number are printed in the header. So click on Header and Footer, Customize Header, and in the centre let's put our name, candidate number and centre number. And then we can print. File, Print. Let's check the preview to make sure it looks fine. No problem. Next, we want to set the page orientation to portrait. So click on Layout again, Orientation, Portrait. And now we want to print a copy showing the values. So click on Formulas again, Show, and we want to unselect Show Formulas. And we can change the zoom to view our spreadsheet clearly. Again, click on Layout, and we can probably print this 1 page tall. And now we can print a copy of the sheet with all the values. Let's check the preview. And this looks fine. All of the data are visible, and our candidate name, number and centre number are in header. Next we want to hide rows 1 to 5. To hide the rows, we select them on the left hand side, right click, hide. And to hide columns, similarly we click on column A, hold down Command, click on D, F, G and H, and then right click, hide. Now to search the data means we apply a filter only to display certain data. Here we want to display data where the supplier is Maxwell, Maxell. So the easy way to do this is to click on a cell that contains the word Maxell, click the arrow next to the filter box here and filter by cell value. And there we go, we can see the 3 rows containing Maxell. Again, we print this. That's easy enough. Now, select all of the data. That means get rid of our filter so we can see all the data again. We're leaving the rows and columns hidden that we've hidden. And we're going to apply another filter here to find certain values of sales and price. Now, this is going to be a little difficult because we can't see the sales. So let's unhide the columns between E and I so we can see what we're doing, and then we'll hide them again before we need to print anything. Now, we want to filter. First, we need to look for items where the sales are greater than or equal to 20. So we click somewhere in the sales column, click filter, filter by cell value, and you can see we've applied a filter. It's not quite the filter we want, so we need to edit this filter. So click on the button, this little filter button on the right hand side of the top of the sales column, and let's change our filter. So we want to change it not to looking for cells equal to 10, but to look for cells that are greater than or equal to. Change the 10 to 20. And then we can close this box, and we can see that seems to have worked because all of the numbers here are now more than or equal to 20. And we also want to look only at items here where the price is less than 100. So these 2 rows here should be excluded. To apply a second filter, we can click on the arrow on the price column, and we want to apply a filter. So here where it says choose one, we're looking for less than 100. We don't need to type pounds here, just 100 is the number. And close that, and we can see that's worked. But before we print the data, we need to remember that F, G and H should be hidden. So hide them again. Doesn't affect the filter's still in place, and we can print our sheet. And that's the end of this section. Thank you for watching.